Display is not being captured. Okay, there we go. Hi. Welcome back to CG225. There are 2 assignments this week that I'm going to be demoing. They're pretty simple. It's just UV unwrapping the 3D buddy and the props in the cereal box for... sorry. My notification sound is loud. The props that we made a couple weeks ago. And I'm just going to be demoing how you want to UV unwrap all of those things. First thing you're going to want to do is grab the MB file of the paper buddy from Moodle, open a new scene in Maya, and remember, if you try to just double click that My binary file, it might open the wrong version of Maya, so make sure you open 2022, and then you can do either open scene and just open it that way, or you could do import. So I'm going to grab it. I didn't put it in the right folder this time. That's not the right place. Where do I find it? Where's downloads? There it is. Oh no, it's in alphabetical order. Give me 1 second. I need to grab this thing from downloads. And where did I have this saved? Whoop. There we go. There we are. They have lights for some reason that I don't need, and the buddy themselves. These meshes are pretty simple when you're just starting out, so if you want to make any edits to them, then you're free to do that on your own. Like say, when I did this assignment, I made my paper buddy into a bird that had a big wide tail. So I just like extruded this out, and what else did I do? Just made like a cut in the middle. I grab that vertex, put it down. An issue you might notice is that one side of this 2D plane is completely black. That's because it is the back of a face, and ideally you don't want to have the backs of your faces showing on a model like this. It might be better to have it just like a plane, such as this, if you're modeling like a leaf, which is just you put the leaf texture on it and you put a transparency map for the texture, and then you just manipulate it using the plane. But for something like this, I want the whole object to be a solid mesh, so I'm gonna make a few more extrusions. Just really simple ones. And I'm gonna target weld these edges to here, or these vertices. This one here, I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna add an extra triangle there on the bottom so that I can fill it in. Now I'm going to fill this hole. It's doing the same thing as last time where it doesn't let me fill the hole. Oh no. That's annoying. Why does it not let me fill the hole? Did I just select all the edges? No, that's not the issue. Alright, I'll do it myself. Screw you, Maya. I would feel really bad if anyone taking this class was named Maya because we all hate it so much. Not bad. Well, maybe we don't hate it, it's just annoying. Let's see if it actually goes the right way. Yes, it does. Okay, there we go. Now I have... I'm gonna unplug that so it doesn't annoy me. Okay, now that I've made an edit to my paper buddy, I can actually... So, like, say you wanted yours to have a tail like this, or maybe you have a teeth, like I saw one of you had in class. You can just go ahead and do that and model it yourself, or just make edits to the model that was placed on Moodle. But now, for the UV mapping part. My UV editor showed up on my second monitor because that's where I usually do it. But if you don't have two monitors at home, you can always work on this at campus if you prefer to have more screen space. But I'm just going to... So Maya has like a docking window system where if you drag one of these, you can hover over the edge of something else and have it show that blue bar. Sometimes it doesn't quite work how you want it to, so you need to open up a panel and then dock it on the edge of that panel. It's very precise. There we go. And then I can just close that. So now I have the UV editor and my model open at the same time. So when you look at this, it's just the flat representation of all the faces of your mesh. The idea of UV mapping is to take your mesh and just lay it out on a flat surface so you can draw a texture on it, which we'll be doing in Substance next week, I think. At the start, they're probably going to look extremely weird like this, where it's just like a million triangles all overlapping all over each other. So what I usually start my mesh with, so I'm just going to do this one first. Actually, I'm going to do this one first, because it's simpler. I want to have it in the middle, so I'm going to rotate it. Can I have a specific rotation, please? Thank you. And then I want it to be in the center so that I can get a good automatic UV mapping scan. This one I'm going to scooch over here to the side. You might notice the camera depth changes when your panels are side by side like this. That's okay because I don't really need to do much in the 3D for the duration of the UV mapping process. So under poly modeling, there should be a few buttons over here next to the UV editor one, and I'm going to do this cube one that says automatic mapping. This will cut up nearly every face like into its own UV shell over here, which is not what we want. It'll make a ton of seams in our texture. Ideally, we want to have as few seams as possible in our texture while preventing it from warping, so that the different parts of the texture can like seamlessly lap over into one another without there being like weird ambient occlusion maps getting in the way of it looking normal. If you've ever seen something in a video game that looks like the pattern on like a wall or something just like suddenly gets changed, that's because they had a unfortunate thing that they're UV mapping. So I'm going to cut and sew a lot of these edges here. So I'm going to go into edge selection mode, and UV mapping is a very practical thought process. So like you kind of just have to imagine your model as a hollow piece of like paper mache sculpture that you're going to cut up and lay flat, like as if you're dissecting it. So I only want to have these seams in the necessary corners between the different pieces of it. If I can have a piece be connected to as many different faces as possible without having like warping between them, then that is ideal. So something like this, I want to sew, hold on. You're going to be doing a lot of unfolding in this process. Make sure you have this tool open all the time. The shortcut I did there was after selecting these edges. So make sure, so you can either go into like the cut and sew tab here and click cut or click sew. That gets kind of annoying having to like click these tiny little buttons on this big old screen here. So I just use the keyboard shortcut, which for sew is Shift S and for cut is Shift X. And it only works while your cursor is hovered over the UV editor screen, which is why I docked it in the viewport like this. So they're side by side, so I don't have to keep like clicking on the UV editor, clicking back on the viewport, or making the window like go under the Maya window. This way it's much easier to just go back and forth between like, I want to grab this one and sew this one. You're going to notice it's going to look very strange and warped after a bit. Like, yeah. If you want, Maya gives a automatic expectation sort of thing for how warped your texture is going to be. If you click on this one here, and at the top of the UV editor, this button, the UV distortion screen. So right now everything is white, which means that all of the UV shells are cut in a way that there is no distortion in this square map that they have here. That's just like the default background texture. If you click on this little picture button here, it'll display that for you. You can turn it off if you please, but I usually keep it on because it is helpful for seeing how distorted things are without needing to turn on this thing. If you have this on and say like one of your edges is all like screwed up, like I'm going to go back a few steps before I unfolded this, you'll notice that sometimes things turn blue or red. If something is red, that means, I can't remember which one's which off the top of my head, but one of them means stretched and one of them means compressed. So I'm going to select the CV shell and unfold it. I'm just going to slide this edge on here to see which one is which. Okay, yeah, red is compressed and blue is stretched. So ideally you want it to all be white, so there's no compression or stretching. There are many different ways to unwrap your model, obviously. So whichever way feels the best to you is what you should do, honestly. Because no model is going to be the same and everything is going to have different pattern for cutting it up and unwrapping it. Literally, like, imagine you have a, like, imagine UV unwrapping a bicycle. Like, so that would be, in real life, that would be like wrapping it in wrapping paper and then like trying to take the wrapping paper apart and lay it all out flat with as little like tearing and stretching as possible in that wrapping paper. Reminds me of a yeah. So the way I'm unwrapping this, I am just keeping it in like big shells, but I don't have to do that. I can like cut these two shells here into 3 different parts so that it's easier to lay them out. Because the second part of UV unwrapping, after you've cut all your shells up, is to put them all together organized and nice and neat and not overlapping and not going outside of this box here. this box so that you can actually paint the textures on them and have them not like say, oh, I'm trying to paint the face on this one, but it actually gets on the back as well at the same time, and it looks really weird because it has repeating parts where it's not supposed to, or it could be on the hand or something like that. I'm going to just select all these edges in a row and sew them, because I think that's going to work pretty well for me personally. So I'm going to select all of these shells and just unfold them. And to get a start on laying them out, I'm going to go under the Arrange and Layout tab, do Orient Shells. I want to actually go into Transform and rotate this one as well. Which part is the front? This part's the front, and this part's the back, so I'm going to have the back be upside down, so I remember that. To just get a start of laying these out so they're not all on top of each other, I'm going to go under Arrange and Layout tab. Oh, what'd I do? And just checking to make sure I'm recording. Yeah. Do the Layout button. This will automatically put them all together. If you cut them up really nice, it might do a really good job, but it is just a computer, and it doesn't know the exact way to pack this as efficiently as possible. Like, you'll notice that I could totally slide this one over and have this all be packed way more efficiently if I really try, like, fiddling stuff around and making as good of a use of my space as possible. When you get really good at laying out your UV textures, that's how you know someone's like a good texture artist. I'm gonna leave that one how it is. So there's that one. I am so ideally you want these two models to be the exact same. In my case, they're not. I'm making two different paper buddies. But if you wanted, so anytime you want to make a duplicate of an object that you're going to texture later on, you should UV map it before you make a whole bunch of duplicates. So like, now that I have this all UV mapped and I, like, say this is the end result of what I want my UV layout to look like. Now I can go and I can clone it and make like my big paper buddy or whatever. And say like, hey, here we go, and this one has a perfect UV map layout too. But you notice, oh wait, I accidentally screwed up and my UV shells were on top of each other. Then you have to go back and delete every single one of them and redo the mapping for every single one. So I'm just going to delete this one. And a way that you can check to make sure that all your UV shells are within this square, which is very important for making sure that your textures are actually on your model, is by clicking these two buttons here and making sure that the only square on this window here that's highlighted is the U1V1 square, 1001. If your stuff is not all packed in here, like say it might be sliding a tiny bit into these other two things, then you select it all and you're like, oh no, things are actually in the other ones, like this one is actually peeking into that one, so that's something I want to fix. Let me double check. Yeah, I do actually need to scooch this one over. Let's see, can I do that this way? Oh yeah, just perfect. Just perfect. Now if I turn that one on, I select everything, then it won't be overlapping, and everything is still the right size. Right. So something you actually want to do before you get to laying these all out perfectly is making sure you have the right texel density. So for that, I am going to duplicate this paper buddy here and make like this one just be like a lot bigger. So this is like the big paper buddy, which is like the base one. I'm going to go to the largest UV shell I have here, just like the biggest set of faces, and I'm going to go under, let's see, under transform at the bottom, there's this textile density tab. I'm going to click this get button, and it will give me a number, and that's the textile density I'm going to set to every single other UV shell. Looks like everything else here already has the correct textile density, but I need to go to my other object that is a lot smaller, and I need to set the same textile density to all of these parts too. And they're going to look really tiny now. So when you put these two together, these squares should be the exact same size on both of them, rather than before the squares on this little one were way bigger. And now that you have, I'm going to do all my paper body stuff on just one UV shell here. So I'm going to select both of these. I'm just going to UV shell selection mode, and I'm going to start using my intuition to pack them as efficiently as possible. This part is all up to you to like just look at the pieces and how they fit together. If you really like doing puzzles, then this part can be actually a little bit fun and therapeutic. It's like the same sort of satisfaction you get from doing puzzles, to be honest. So you might find yourself just like zoning out during the UV packing process. It's like, oh, does that fit there? And not quite. Can I drag this up here and keep the same big textile density? That one in there. Put that one there. And to keep all these together so I know what pieces they are, I'm going to put those ones over there rather than down here in this blank spot. Now, if you really wanted to get more texture detail on your model, you could go through and sort these all out to have them be as efficiently packed as possible while being as large as possible. I'm not super concerned with that right now, since this is just a paper buddy and not a cool ass monster in a AAA game title. Seriously, when you look at what the pros do with their UV packing, it's insane, honestly. So that'll be it for your paper buddy. It's like, I'm going to save this scene here. I'm going to get rid of this one because I actually don't want to keep that one. Make sure I save it now that I have the paper buddy done. And now I'm going to open the scene for my still life objects. Let's see. It's going to be in here. My most recent file is still life number 2. I still have this open. I don't need that right now. Everything has textures on it. That's right. I don't want textures on things. I'm going to turn that off by clicking the where's the button to turn off the textures? Which one is it? I don't remember. Yeah, use default material. That's what I wanted. I'm going to go into my channel box and, oh, I didn't have the lighting. That's another layer. There we go. I can turn that off now. Oh, my eraser is in the ground for some reason. That's bad. I want it to be flush against the floor. Okay, now we're going to have to do what I talked about earlier, which is unwrapping the wrapping paper that you put around your bicycle, or in this case, paintbrush. The eraser has a fairly decent start to it, but since there are these beveled corners here, it's not really sure what to do with it. So I'm just going to do it the old-fashioned way and cut it all up by hand. So to do that, I'm gonna start. Ooh, it's not a good corner I can cut it across because I have these triangles here. That's not cool. I should have done an odd number so that I had even corners to cut across. Oh, okay, that's fine. Ideally, where the best place you can put your seams is along corners, because that's the place where it's going to be the least noticed, because there's already a dramatic change in direction around there. Okay, do anything to make this eraser easier, but no. I'm going to have a little bit more challenging time here. So I want this one. We don't want all of it. I'm just going to look at this, how it unfolds, and decide what to do with it there. I want this edge to be sewed. So Shift S, sew that. I'm gonna Shift double click along this line here, do another Shift S. I want to sew that so that it's symmetrical on both sides. That looks bizarre. I don't like that. Oh well. The price you pay when you have a organic shaped object is strange looking UV cuts. Ugh. It's fine. UV mapping organic objects is always more painful than hard surface. Oh no, that's not what I wanted. Okay. Now let's unfold this abomination and see if it looks okay. Alright, yeah, that looks like an eraser. Nice. I'm just going to orient that. It's not exactly oriented vertically. I see. So I have some compression on my eraser here. So what I'm going to do to fix that is I'm just going to make more cuts so that they have more room to unfold properly. So maybe I can't keep it all in one piece like I wanted. That's okay. Some of these parts are... Well, I mean, the eraser is all just going to be one solid color anyway. As long as these face parts are not distorted very much, I think it should be okay. Let's see what happens if I do that. I can turn on soft selection a little bit. Ooh, nope, don't use soft selection in the UV space. You're asking for it there. I do that. And there, now the only parts where it's being warped are along the rounded corners that are supposed to look kind of worn anyway when you actually get to texturing the eraser. Okay, I'll call that one good, and I'll save my scene so that it doesn't crash when I try to start with this one. So you'll notice when you go to these options up here that there are a few different maps. There's like planar mapping, cylindrical mapping, spherical, automatic, and contour stretch. I'm going to try doing the cylindrical one for the paint tube here and just see what it does. Okay, it just made a line down the middle. That's pretty awful. I'm just going to do it all by hand as well. That doesn't help me at all. Sometimes when you try to do the automatic thing to help you out, it just doesn't help at all. So I'm going to make cuts on all these 90-degree angles. Alright, so that's going to be... I'm going to unwrap the cap first. Actually, no, I'm going to do it all at once, and then I'm going to unwrap it. I'm going to cut the bottom here. And then I'm going to do a seam down the side. All the way up to here. Grab that one too. I want to deselect anything that is a flat, like, donut shape. Let's see. I think I want a seam here as well. That part, you're not going to see it, so it doesn't matter what it looks like. So the thought process for a cylinder is just cutting a line down the middle and like unwrapping it like it's a soda can or something. Like if you've ever cut a soda can open with a knife and unwrapped that, then you'll have an idea of what this should be shaped like, or like a label around a plastic bottle. But imagine the label has flat parts that you want to keep as flat circles. So I'm going to grab all these and just see what happens if I unfold them, if they look fine. It's a little bizarre. What happened to like half of my UV shells? Oh, yeah, this is a bug that happens sometimes with parts of your model that you've extruded. So if I select this UV shell, you see I have it selected over here. But when I go into the UV editor, it's all just concentrated into one vertex here in this tiny corner that you can't even see. There's a fix to this. So if you ever run into this bug, what you're just going to have to do is just grab a bunch of these vertices and keep pulling them apart until you have a face that you can select and do the unfold tool on. You'll be able to tell if you have more of these by doing what I just did there. Okay, now that they're unfolded, I can scale them up to be the same size as the rest of these UV shells. Can I actually... No, I want to leave that seam there. Let's see, are there any other stragglers left in this tiny little corner? Nope, there are none. Everything is in working order. I'm going to see if I can pack all these objects onto one UV square so that they can all just share one texture that I can apply to them later on. It'll look kind of low resolution, but it'll be fine. It doesn't really matter how high the resolution on these objects is, as long as they have an appropriate textile density compared to the cereal box, which will be extremely easy to UV map. This brush is having the same... It's basically the same as the paint tube, just a slightly different shape. I'm just going to sew everything to start, and I'm going to do a cut down the middle, cut around the top, and then I'm going to do cuts around anytime there's a sharp angle. That's the best time to do a cut, there's a sharp angle. This part here is a little strange. Actually don't need that cut there. Well, I might. This part I'm also going to do a cut around, just so that it unwraps neatly. The other time you want to do a cut is when there is a transition from materials. It's like this part of the brush is all going to be wood, but I want this part to be metal, and I want this part to be the bristles. So I'm going to do, even though you might not normally do it just because of like the way that the mesh is shaped, you will still want to make a cut there if it is a border between materials. And I'm going to do the same thing down here between the wood and the metal. And I'm going to see how that unwraps just to get an idea for how it is at the start. Alright, so the handle is pretty nice. The bottom cap of the handle is it's fine. It's on the bottom. It's a really tiny part too, and it's not all that distorted. This part does have some distortion, so I'm going to make a few more cuts here so I can get rid of that. So I'm going to do one here, and I'm going to do one here, 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 here. It'll look like there's no distortion at the start here, but then once you do another unfold, you'll see that, oh, there are these pieces that are actually super warped. This is actually a ring, so I want to sew those two together and then select that shell and do the unfold button on it again. Same with these other ones, actually. Anything that's like circular shaped, that's like a ring, should honestly be closed if you can do it, because that way they will stay flat. Okay, now everything is unfolded, and I'm just going to do a quick layout after orienting everything. That is not how I'm going to lay it out myself. Oh, yeah, that's right. This one is way too big. So I'm just using these other squares here momentarily to get everything to the right size so that I can pack them all together into one singular UV shell. I'm not going to do that just yet though, because I still need the textile density of the largest object in the scene, which is going to be my cereal box. It's going to be an extremely simple model. It's literally just a cube that is, oh, you know, cereal box sized. I don't know what the exact dimensions of a cereal box are off the top of my head, but I think, you know, about that big. These cubes are the simplest possible thing you could unwrap. It's like done by default. You can just do the unfold button and then it will be fine, and then it's basically done. Ideally, actually, you would have, so for I don't really know why it was structured this way, but we made the texture for the cereal box before learning UV unwrapping. I don't think I would do it in that order, personally. I would teach you how to make your UV maps before doing any sort of texturing stuff. Because the idea of texturing is taking your UV map and painting over it, which you would like to know what your UV map is going to look like before you do any painting. It's like, I'm going to actually cut this all into separate pieces just so that I can pack it as neatly as possible, which, since it's all cubes, Maya's going to do very nicely for me. And I'm going to scale these all down just a tiny bit. just so that they're not overlapping with each other. And I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier and do the get and set to all the other ones. And then, so like say you want to paint over these this UV map in a Photoshop or something. How do you do that? You go to at the top of the UV editor, there is the UV snapshot button here. This is going to open up this window and it'll give you a file name and you'll set a file you'll save this to. So I'm just going to do it to here. I'll do serial UV snap, that's what I'm going to call it. I'll save to that folder. Make sure it's a PNG file. And make sure that the tiles you're selecting for, in this case, will just be the U1 and the V1 tile. UV tiles are something very cool that I will probably cover later on how to use effectively in your texturing endeavors. Because there are two ways to do everything. There's either like just assigning individual materials to objects or using UDIM tiles to have your different materials assigned to different UV tiles and having those share the same material that's just applied to everything, which can make everything a lot simpler, but the setup is a little bit complicated if you don't know how to do it. What? Oh, I don't have the object selected. That's why it's not. Oops, what'd I do there? Let's make sure that actually saved. Yeah, okay. It's there now. So then you would take this PNG and you would use it as a template in your serial painting. That is what I had done before. Let's see if I can find where I had it last time. Yeah, this thing. So I took this UV snap, which is just the white lines as a PNG, and I threw it into Photoshop, and I painted my cereal box design over it, and then I turned off the UV shell layer, and I just saved this as a JPEG, and I took that JPEG and used it as a color map for my cereal box. Admire my silly Godzilla cereal that is 100% uranium-234, not for humans. Yeah. Now that we have UV mapped everything in the scene, and I have the textile density for the largest UV shell in the entire scene in my hand. Oh yeah, make sure you keep track of which part's the front and which part's the back by like looking at it in Maya and making like a mental note. You might even like go into the image itself and just like write front, back, top, bottom, left, right on all the different squares. When you take that UV snapshot into Photoshop. All right, now that I have textile density, I'm going to select all these objects. I'm going to select all their UV shells, going to UV selection mode. And I'm going to set the textile density. Oh no, there's a problem somewhere. What could this mean? Oh, it's the same thing that happened with my, the cap to my paintbrush. Here we go. Sometimes you'll get an error and everything will turn green. Why is the manipulator all the way over there? Okay, now I can unfold this and scale it up to be the same size as everything else. So that's why it looked all screwed up. So why does it still have that red line there? That red area there? Okay, well, let's just select everything and set the textile density. Ah, there's something more. What is it? Let me turn on this. Oh, it's this part. I see. I see. Oh, that's unfortunate. That's bizarre. Okay, now why is it still doing that? You literally look fine over here. I love having bugs in my extrusions between the different parts of my model. Yay! What if I just cut this in half again? Will that fix it? No, that didn't do anything. What if? Isn't that edge already cut? Oh, it's not. Is it? I can't tell. It's not really doing a good job of showing me what I'm looking at. Okay, that's weird. Well, it looks fine over here on the UV editor. So, okay, well, oh, it was this piece. Okay, I fixed it. Alright, now I can actually get to packing everything and setting the right textile density to everything. Never mind, there's something else. What's wrong? Oh my god. I have to keep doing it. Ugh. Oh, it's the bottom of this thing. Ugh, okay, fine. You're stuck over here? Okay. Something you can do is use the middle click if like your manipulator is all the way over here for some reason, to drag or rotate or scale something, like using the mouse wheel button. I want to sort you with the other paint tube shells. Okay, can I set the textile density to everything now? No, I may not. You may not. The stove's gone. I think Steve took it. Oh, what makes you say that, Billy? There's like a trail of grease leading to his office. Just hold on 1 second, sir. Not me quoting Victor Burger scenes in my Maya demo tutorial thing. I love Victor Burger. It's a great animated series made by Ian Worthington on YouTube. His channel name is Worthy Kids. It's incredible. It's all done in Blender, grease pencil. Oh, I'm selecting UV shells. That's why I'm a dumbass. I need to select the vertices. Okay, go back to vertex selection mode. I think the reason this all happened here is because instead of doing the Control E extrusion, I was just doing the like shift and drag, like the edges type of extrusion, which was frankly irresponsible of me. I should know better. Also, I should cut that edge there, and then, yeah. I feel like I have to link Big Top Burger in the YouTube channel description, YouTube video description, just so I can tell you to go watch it. It's like a 30-minute long series. Wasn't that fun? Everything is going to be really tiny and spread out. That's okay. That's just fine. Make sure that these are all the brush pieces. Actually, I can just select all the UV shells on this screen. And I can... Oh, that one's part of this one, not the brush. Okay, now, so this way everything will have the same textile density in my scene. Once I've like UV packed all these together, which I mean you're gonna have to do on your own. Watching me do this won't help you at all, to be honest. But there are a few different tricks you can use. Like you can take ring pieces and like put them inside of each other sometimes if they fit. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes you need to go back and unfold something that didn't get unfolded properly. I like to take anything that's like a strip like this and just line it all up next to each other. That needs to be unfolded again. Make sure anytime you do an unfold thing, you set the textile density to it again, because that'll make it bigger probably. And make sure you keep all of your UV shells just like organized into their own little sections. Because if you have these like overlapping and getting mixed up, then you're going to be really confused when you get to the texturing process of where everything is and what it lines up with. I don't need to be super clean here with my UV packing because it is a very small model with a small textile density. If the cereal box was smaller, then I would have a bigger textile density, but since I don't, I can just drag all this into little pieces. You would probably want to organize them by materials as well within the objects, like put all the metal parts of your models pieces together, like you put these with all these parts. Yeah, once you have that all packed up, you'd probably want to spend more time on it and make it look more pretty than I did, but I kind of want to be done with the demo. It's about an hour long at this point. Okay. Yeah, we don't have to do texturing this week, so let's see, what do we have to submit? I actually don't know. I think you need to submit your model and snapshots of your UV layouts as well, which you can do by doing exactly what I told you, by pressing that camera button, saving it as a JPEG or PNG. Let me open this in a new tab, just so I can see these specs. Just make sure I'm not missing anything in this process. Yeah, oh yeah, painting it. Let's see. Do we need to paint anything on it yet? Oh, you are supposed to paint it this week. Okay. You're not just supposed to texture it. You want to paint it too. Okay, so painting it, you'll do the exact same thing I showed you how to do earlier, which is take the UV snapshot and like save it as like, I don't know, still life, UV snap, and then like do the applying. Did it work? Hold on. Oh yeah, last time I did this, it was way prettier. It was packed very nicely and efficiently. Yeah, you'll take that. You'll do the one for your paper buddy, and you'll take that into Photoshop or Procreate or whatever you prefer to use, and you will just like paint over it. You can, in fact, even lay out the UV shells to be almost the exact same as they were on the paper version, like when it was just a flat piece of paper, like how it is on this image here. But how you do the UV layout is up to you. You just want to have as few seams as possible, or just have your scenes in places where they won't be noticed, like around sharp corners or transitions between materials or stuff like that. Yeah, once you've textured it, ooh, we have to do a render too. Okay. I am going to show how that works too then. Okay, so I'm going to save my scene here. So how to apply an image texture. So I don't need the UV editor anymore, I don't think. So I'm just going to close that. I'm gonna add all this to a new layer. I'm gonna turn it off. I'm just gonna import what I had last time I took this class, which for me will be this file, I believe. Yeah. Oh, I even had multiple of them. Okay, so assigning material. Let's see, does it have material? Yeah. I'm just gonna do a fresh start though. I'm gonna turn off all the lighting stuff as well by putting this in a new layer and turning it off. So currently, all of my paper buddies have a texture that is currently applied to them that you'd be able to see if I turned it on, I think. Is it actually there? Interesting. It doesn't seem to be there. Let me check my UV shells. No, yeah, it's how I want it to look. Everything else is the same size. It's all packed together with the small one next to the large one, so that they have the same textile density. This one I could have changed a little bit, but I just decided to make them all share the same texture, even though their textile density is going to be a little bit different between like this one and this one. You can see how I did this before. So I'm just going to redo this whole texture thing. So I'm going to assign my favorite material AI standard surface. Now I'm going to call this buddy TX. TX for texture. And then under color, I'm going to click this little checker pattern here, and under this first one that shows up, there should be a button that says File. It'll take you to this part over here. Then you're going to click your folder. My project is set to the fire hydrant folder for some reason. So that's probably why my textures aren't connected to my little guy. I did my texturing in Substance Painter, so there's like background coloring to all of it. You can see like there it is the UV layout. Now I'm going to take this PNG, just what I had, and I'm going to just apply it to that texture. I forgot he looked like that. Oh, that's great. Okay. I'm going to apply the same existing material called Buddy Texture to all the other ones. Oh, look at their faces. They look so angry. Oh, yeah. I based my design on the willy wagtail bird. It's a type of Australian bird that they look like that, and they have these big tails like that, and they look angry with their eyebrow patterns. But when you flatten them... Oh, why is this so funny to me? Okay. Yeah, and then you set up like your normal rendering lighting setup, like with your... oh, shoot. Thank you, Maya, for crashing. This is the most disastrous demo I've made. Cool. Oh, cool. I don't care about sending a report. I don't think you can do that. I have Monster Hunter sound effects for my system sounds, by the way. Isn't that fun? Hey, it's Jen Mohran from Monster Hunter Try. Yeah, I mean, I think you know how to do a lighting and rendering thing for yourself, but yeah, the important part I showed there was making an AI standard surface and clicking the checker thing to add a file, and then using the file process there to grab your JPEG that you have saved as your texture and applying that to the base color part of your AO standard surface. You don't need to do anything for roughness or metalness this time. Just the base color. That's all that really matters for now. I suppose if you wanted, you could do a alpha transparency map, but I'm not going to show you how to do that because that's just something you're just going to have to ask me if you want to figure out how to do that. So just message me on Teams, I guess. Yeah, I think that'll be it for the demo. I mean, what you just saw for the paper buddy is the exact same thing that you're going to do for the other props, like the cereal box and your eraser paintbrush and other stuff. I should check to make sure that those are also ones that have you making textures for them. Okay, yeah, you will be making textures for this. You can either do that in like Photoshop, or if you already have Substance Painter and you know how to use it, I suppose you could use that. But if you don't, then regret. Nice. Okay. What a good demo, Susanna.